Hi dancers! Today's video is going to be less dancey and more talky. So you can just sit down and relax for this one. I'm not in a studio. I'm not going to be doing any dancing, any big movements. This is kind of to address a question that I got on one of my videos. I forget if it was what the head is doing or like the port de bras basics, but somebody mentioned that they have pain or pressure in the back of their neck and in their shoulders when they're dancing. And I'm going to get to that in just a second, but I also thought this would be a really great chance to segue or to talk about the different types of pain that you feel in ballet class because you're working really hard, you're using a lot of muscles, you're doing a lot of things that your body does not naturally want to do. So it can be kind of confusing when you feel certain kinds of pains, tightness, pressure, stretching, what is a normal pain and what is a cause for worry, like what is an injury and what is normal. So to go back to the question, I was talking about how in ballet you have to keep your shoulders down and your neck long, and you always have to you can't let your shoulders come up. You're pressing down. And this does take a lot of work. So it does not surprise me that you feel pain or pressure in the back of your neck. On me, these little muscles right here, these are rock hard on me. And most people that are not dancers, people that don't constantly push their shoulders down, they're a little softer and squishier here, but on me, these are very, very hard. So I want to say that it is normal to feel some kind of pressure, some kind of soreness here. You're using a lot of muscles to keep your shoulders down and to keep your back flat while moving your arms. Even professional ballet dancers, once they start rehearsing for Swan Lake, which is all upper body, all the swan arms, they complain that their back and their shoulders, their arms are so sore after their first rehearsal of Swan Lake. So it is normal to have some kind of pressure, some kind of soreness in your upper body as well as the rest of your body because you're working very hard. However, if that pain, if that pressure is preventing you from dancing, if you are in so much discomfort that you can't dance, that it's interfering with your movement, then it might be a problem. When you start feeling that pain, pause for a second and think about what you're doing. Are you bearing down so hard to the point that you're actually causing more tension and making it harder to move your body? Because if you're doing that, if you're bearing down and holding so much tension that you're actually straining muscles that don't need to be strained, then that can be a problem. So a little exercise for that is to find a flat wall, or you could even just lay down on your back on the floor and do this. The whole goal is for your back to be flat. So even though you're pressing your shoulders down, I don't want you to think about pressing your shoulders down and bearing down forward. If anything, it's more of like a back feeling, like somebody put their hands on your back and is kind of sliding their hands down your back. It's almost like you want your shoulder blades to melt into your back so it's flat. So it's not a forward and down, it's kind of almost like a waterfall. I don't know if that makes sense. So what you could do to make sure that this is happening is to sit flat against a wall, or even, like I said, you could lay on your back on the floor. And when you first lay down, you might feel your shoulder blades poking out a little bit. The bottom of your shoulder blade almost has a point at the bottom, like a triangle. You might feel those points sticking out, and you might feel them digging into the wall, and it's not comfortable. So first I want you to find that little happy spot where your shoulder blades can sit flat. It's almost like your shoulder blades just melt into your back and become flat, like you're tucking in your wings. So once you've found that, you got to try to keep it there. And you'll notice once you shrug your shoulders up, those little pointy parts of your shoulder blade stick out again. You'll feel them poking into the wall or the floor. So that's one way to make sure your shoulders are down and your back is flat where they should be. So once you've done that, then I want you to practice going through all the positions, all the ballet positions, First position, second position, third position. Like I said, I'm trained in the Vaganova method. It's just 1, 2, and 3. Everything else is a permutation of 1, 2, and 3. So try to keep that flat feeling, and without raising your shoulders, without letting those little pokey parts of your shoulder blades stick out into the floor. Keep your back flat. Imagine that you still have this like waterfall feeling on your back, and if anything, you press your back down to lift your arms up. I know that sounds kind of backwards, but it's almost like a teeter-totter motion. You push one side down to lift the other side up. Your back is kind of doing the same thing. Just push your back down and flat, and then it's almost that downward motion lifts your arms up. And then open in second, and then go up to third. When you go from second to third, you'll feel a little bit of a shift in your shoulder blades, but at no point should you be doing this, and at no point should you feel your shoulder blades poking into the floor or poking into the wall. Your back is flat, your shoulders are down, but you're not bearing down so hard that you're causing tension and tightness. Your neck has to be free, because you need a loose neck to be able to spot and to change your head whenever you're doing éploiement or any position that you change the direction of your head. So you can even do this before your ballet class starts. I do this with my students too. Before we even do our first plie at the bar, I have them lay flat on the floor or flat against the wall and just have them feel like their whole spine is just this long, smooth, but still kind of lengthened. There's effort into keeping your shoulders down, but not enough to be interfering with your dancing. And then I'm going to use this to segue into the other topic about the different kinds of pain and different kinds of sensations you will feel in a ballet class. Number 1, ballet is hard. It is uncomfortable. You are demanding so many crazy things of your body. It does not tickle, and it does not feel like a massage. So yes, you are going to experience some pain when you are in a ballet class, when you are in rehearsal, when you're working really hard. You are going to feel pains and aches in places that you never thought you had. So the good pains, the normal pains, are stretching pains. Stretching pains are normal if they're like a warm, spread out blanket feeling. So if you are not very flexible, or if you're just starting to stretch outside of your comfort zone, it's going to feel like a warm rope inside your legs or inside your back. It should not be sharp, stabbing, shocking. It should not feel like you're getting electrocuted. So a nice, warm, pulling sensation that feels kind of spread out, that's normal. That's your muscles stretching. That's how you know you're warmed up properly and your muscles are starting to stretch. But if you feel a sharp, sudden, shocking, burning, like somebody just stabbed you, that might mean you're not warmed up enough. That might mean you went too far too soon, or you went too fast. And that could mean that you are actually damaging a ligament or tendon rather than your muscles. Pointing your feet. This is my biggest complaint from my students. When I tell them to point their feet, point harder, they say it hurts, I have a foot cramp, and I tell them, good! This sounds really sadistic, but in ballet, particularly, you have to point your foot a lot harder than a lot of the other dance styles. There's not as much emphasis on pointing your feet in hip-hop, or in jazz, or in African, or in tap. Ballet is really they stress pointing the feet. So even though a lot of my students have been taking jazz for years, they've been taking hip-hop for years, they've been doing their lyrical dances for years, and they think they're pointing their foot, they're really not. I'm the mean ballet teacher that comes up to them, and I press their foot, and I try to lengthen and pull their toes out more, and I tell them to give themselves a little foot cramp, and I make them hold it, and they complain that it hurts. Yes, it does. It does hurt in the beginning. And you might feel a spasm, But know that even if you give yourself a cramp or a muscle spasm, that by itself is not going to do much damage. It's really hard to injure your foot just by pointing it really hard, specifically if you just feel the cramp on the bottom. That's just a muscle cramp. That's what happens when you do a sit-up. I tell my girls that the bottom of their foot is like your stomach muscle. When you first start doing sit-ups, you're contracting your stomach muscles the same way you're contracting your foot muscle. So when you first start doing sit-ups, they suck, they hurt, you don't want to do it, you think you're dying, but the more you do it and the stronger those muscles get, the less of a problem it is. It's the same thing in your foot. The more you point your foot, the more you do it every day, the harder you work at it. After a while, it's not going to be such a big deal. You'll still feel that warm, stretching, kind of warm sensation of a muscle soreness, but it's not going to kill you, and it's going to be like second nature. So pointing your foot really, really hard, unless you crack something in your ankle or you hear a crack on the top of your foot, the contracting and kind of making this bottom arch muscle burn is okay, and it's normal, and I encourage it. If you really, really hurt yourself and really gave yourself a Charlie horse or a cramp, you can roll your foot out on a ball or a water bottle or something like that. Okay, leg and hip and butt pain. When you're at the bar or even in the center, and let's say you're doing your adagio and you're like, I really want to get my leg up really high today, I'm gonna go for it. And you start pinching and contracting these hip flexors, and you feel like a butt cramp, and you feel like a tightness here in your hip flexor. That's pretty normal. It's kind of hard to injure yourself if you're doing active stretching. Active stretching means you're doing it with your own muscle. Passive stretching is when you swing and you're not really using your own muscles to do the lifting for you. You're using your movement and your inertia. So passive stretching, you can hurt yourself if you swing too high or swing too hard. Go past where your muscles are ready to go. But if you're doing active stretching, where it's your own muscles bringing it to as high as they can go, it's pretty hard to injure yourself by doing that. So any kind of pain that you feel doing your own développé, trying really hard to get your leg up, you'll feel burning, you'll feel tightness, you'll feel the sore, crampy tension. That is a normal pain. So any kind of warm, cramping, muscle tension, tightness, where you're working really hard and really pushing a muscle or really contracting it, those are normal pains. Pains that are not normal, and I might just make a separate video about this, are things that are sharp, that feel like you just got stabbed, where you feel the pain shoot throughout your whole body. So if you take a step and you feel the pain shoot through your leg, or you feel the pain shoot through your back, and it interferes with your dancing, that's not okay. Those are usually signs of something like a sprain or a joint injury, whether you have joint effusion or a tear, or something is grinding against something where it shouldn't, something's misaligned. If your back is hurting and it's interfering with your ability to dance, that could be a strained muscle. You could have a herniated disc. I'll probably make another video just about injuries and how to recognize them. Okay, so I hope that helped. And P.S., little heads up, the studio that I usually film my tutorial videos, they are not having classes at all this month. I think the teachers are away or something, I don't know. So I might not have access to that space. So if I can answer your questions and do it justice in my own home, I'll try. If it's something that really needs a big space, it might have to wait until a little later. I'm still going to try to answer everybody's questions. Maybe I can even bring my laptop into the studio where I teach, and I can even have my students help out. My students have helped out in videos before. So yeah, just that little heads up, and thank you again for watching, and thank you for all your questions and comments. Have fun!